Argo is an elderly dog and lives with an equally elderly human friend, Mr. Joe. Their life together is warmed by well-established and affectionate habits and rituals. Every morning, Argo waits for Joe at the top of the stairs. Cheerful and wagging his tail, they go to the kitchen to have breakfast. They then go to the garden to check the tomatoes to see if they are red enough to want to be picked. Then they return home, prepare vegetables for lunch, and go out for a walk in the small village where they live. Mr. Joe dresses with care. He puts on his blue jacket, blue socks, the scarf that his wife gave him 20 years ago, and to which he is deeply attached. Argo is brushed and perfumed, and with his inseparable red leash, he prepares for his daily walk. The dog doesn't tug. It doesn't make Mr. Joe lose his balance. He is a good and well-behaved dog. Mr. Joe and his inseparable four-legged friend stop in the shop during their walk in the village. They say hello, buy something, even a simple sandwich, chat with the old people of the town who they find sitting in the square in front of the church, and slowly return home. This walk is good for human legs and dog paws and for the heart of both. Then they have lunch, always in the same way. Joe eats sitting in the kitchen in front of the television, and Argo watches him in the hope of receiving a piece of bread. After tidying up the kitchen, like every day, they move to the living room on their respective armchairs. Joe pretends to watch television, but is actually dozing, and Argo snores loudly. When they both wake up, more or less always at the same time, they go back to the garden to check that everything is in order. Argo and the widowed Mr. Joe have been living alone for 10 years. Joe has no children, and although he has no grandchildren, he is the grandfather of many children in his town. He no longer drives. His license was no longer renewed due to ailments and an eye problem. When he needs some errands out of town, he calls his neighbors, with whom he has an excellent relationship. It was Tuesday, and like every day of the week, after breakfast, Mr. Joe and Argo went to the garden to check the ripeness of their vegetables. That morning, however, something was different. Argo couldn't smell the air and couldn't sit still for a moment. Argo senses that there is something different, probably something serious, very serious indeed. It continues to fuss, bark, and howl until it attracts the attention of the neighbors. Mr. Joe is not well. They climb over, help him, call for help, and rush him to the hospital. Argo had felt the heart attack coming, the same ungrateful guest who had taken away his human friend 10 years ago. When Mr. Joe woke up in the hospital, he immediately asked the doctors about his four-legged friend, and to return as soon as possible to his life, his tomatoes and his lifesaver named Argo. Thanks from Animals Power.